Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass. Give him a ball and he out of space. He'll give you a move with godly grace.
Oh, guess who's been on match of the day?
You have in your big shorts.
I said, guess who's been on match of the day?
You have in your big shorts.
Yes, I've been on match of the day because I've got very big shorts.
Well, hello again, and welcome to episode 86 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Steve Pander.
I guess with this being the 86th episode, we should maybe do a quick na 86.
I'll let you do that. You have a better voice.
Yeah. We also have Predicta Pooch here with us today. You might hear him in the background because he's being as annoying as Robbie Keane when he doesn't get a decision going his way. As you can hear there. Perfect timing. So apparently the off-season isn't over yet. We still have several months to go before we actually see some proper football again. But it's a busy time of year for the Whitecaps. We've got the expansion draft coming up next week.
We had the dispersal draft, which is...
I mean, that was exciting.
Yeah.
That I've never seen so many passes since the Canadian women's team went to the Roxy after that Olympic qualifier game. And Monday, we've got a 4-hour trade window, which does open up again after the expansion draft. But it could be a busy time next week.
Yeah, the draft season is great in MLS. I'm just the envelopes was awesome with the expansion, with the dispersal draft. I'm just waiting for the pin the tail on the donkey draft, where whoever gets closest to the pinning the tail gets the first pick in the draft. That would be interesting. That'd be good TV as well, I think.
Well, that would only be if they kept it public. Because was it Jeff Carlisle? I can't remember who it was. I think it was Jeff Carlisle from ESPN.
No, it was the guy from Kansas City. I can't remember his name right now. It's slipping one, but
yeah.
He slipped something out, and then everybody was...
He started to live tweet the draft, and then he just went dead, and everyone thought, is he dead?
Yeah,
has he
been killed?
And then he had to delete all his tweets, because apparently it was to be a secret, which
doesn't make sense at all.
It's baffling.
Yeah.
But we've got a couple of big decisions coming up for the Whitecaps, and the first one, really, is who is Carl Robinson going to protect ahead of the expansion draft on Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll be talking to him later on in the podcast, but obviously he's not going to tell us who he's going to protect, so we might as well guess right now.
Yeah, and we have a couple of slight disagreements, but...
Yeah. Well, the ones obvious ones, I think Pedro Morales is one.
Yep.
Matthias Laba, the other co-MVP in a lot of people's mind. And then other guys, Gershon Kofi, Kendall Watson's an obvious one. Kakuta Mane, he just graduated from Generation Adidas, so he's going to be in there. Then we get into the who, it's not too, wishy-washy, but you're kind of guessing on whether these guys deserve it. David Ousted, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm saying he big time went from the summertime where people thought, nobody's going to pick a goalie who's that high priced. But the way he played, he should be protected just in case somebody wants him.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to do that now.
And then Darren Maddox, he's got trade value. He's not somebody that I think will be with the Whitecaps next year, but he's got trade value. Somebody will take him if he's available.
Well, he's done well for Jamaica when he's been away in these games recently, so I mean that has put some value onto him as well. The other thing you have to look at is if they are looking to trade him, he could go before the draft even happens. But then what you've also got with that is if the Whitecaps trade for somebody, they're likely to then have to protect him.
Exactly.
So Darren Mattix or whoever he may be traded for.
Yeah. And then now the final four, this is where we're kind of going back and forth on. I think Steven Beitashour, I know he didn't have a great year, but I think a fullback is very hard to find in MLS, and I think maybe with if they do get that big striker, maybe he becomes more valuable in sending in crosses and stuff like that to the box. So maybe he might be somebody that can. What do you think about Steve Bittershore?
I don't know. I mean, you're looking at the list of the guys that's left, and I mean, let's list the remaining 4, because we've got Bittershore.
Yeah, Johnny Leveron, we think.
Well, you think?
I just think that he's a young center back still. I know he did have good spells, and he's Carl Robinson's guy, so that's why I think he gets protected.
And then you've also got
Jordan Harvey
and Eric Hurtado.
Yeah, I think Jordan Harvey. I think both of us were kind of last year weren't too sure about him, but I think this year the way he's been on and off the pitch, I think he's a class guy off the pitch.
Yeah,
and I think he's greatly improved on the pitch as well. I think there weren't those Jordan Harvey mistakes that we had in the past where it cost the team some goals. And of course, he didn't score as many goals this year. It wasn't the goal machine like he is, but I think overall he had a solid season this year.
And I love his facial hair, so yeah. I would protect him just for that reason.
And then you got Hurtado.
Yeah, now Hurtado is somebody I would protect, not necessarily because I'm keen to have him here next year, although as a depth striker, I think he maybe serves some purpose for the money he's on. But I do think if we leave him unprotected, he will get picked up, so he definitely has some value.
Because he is a young player, well, somewhat young. I think he's like 24, 25 now. But he is a domestic player. If the Whitecaps were to lose him, it'd be hard to find somebody in that mode where it's a young, cheap domestic player. What's the point of replacing him when you already have somebody like that?
True. I mean, that's very true. And he has got the MLS experience now, whereas like Carroll could go to another striker in the draft, you're going back to square one. Yeah. You haven't got that MLS experience.
Now, that leaves the people that we think might be unprotected.
Yeah, there's 9 players.
About 9, yeah.
You've got Andy O'Brien.
Yeah. Andy O'Brien, the reason why, correct me if you think this is wrong reasoning, but he is an older player. Right now, he's on a higher salary. If somebody does pick him up, maybe the Whitecaps could do a deal with them and, do like a Brian Ching kind of thing where they, trade some allocation money to bring him back if somebody does take him. So that could be an option there.
I definitely can't see someone taking him up. As much as I love O'Brien and he's a classy guy and I want him to stay and I want him to have a coaching role here, you can't see one of these teams or these teams selecting for another team picking a guy that's really in his last year of senior football.
Yeah.
And as you say, with the price as well. And then that brings us to another kind of veteran, Mauro Rosales.
Yeah, and I think if it wasn't an issue with his age, I think he'd definitely be one of the first people protected. But because of his age, because of his high ticket, although he can renegotiate to a lower salary, I think you got to take a chance and just hope nobody picks him up. I think if somebody does get picked up, one of those 2 guys will be the first ones protected.
Oh, yeah. But then another kind of older guy, Mehdi Bellucci.
I think that there's a chance he could be picked by somebody, but I don't see it being a big loss for them. I think they could find somebody in that price range.
I definitely
off the waiver draft or whatever.
I think he'll be unprotected, and I think he'll be one of the guys that will go from the Whitecaps, just because he has got the MLS experience. There are those injury concerns, but teams will take the risk on him.
So then we also have 3 guys who obviously didn't play a minute, I don't think, with the Whitecaps this year. Paulo Tornaghi, the backup keeper. Andre Lewis and Diouf from the draft pick from last year. They're all going to all be eligible as well for the draft.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of those guys, there's no way that they're getting protected. We haven't seen Lewis and Diouf, so we don't really know what they can do. But
Lewis did go viral with his flip.
True,
in Victoria,
when he did his face plant.
Yeah.
So we did see him play live, and we got to see that, so that was fun.
But I think with him I know it's a first-round pick, and I still think they should never have drafted him. You take away the fact that he's apparently owned by the Cosmos. I still don't think he was a great pick, but I think you can risk losing him because where is he getting positioned? His position is attacking mid. You have Morales, and you have Bustos coming in. If Mosquita comes back, you got him too. So there's no real spot for Lewis.
Lewis, I can't see getting picked up because of that whole who owns him.
And
injury as well. Yeah. Diouf, he could be a guy that would go, and
he's an international still, I think.
Yeah,
unless he picked up his green card last year.
Pretty sure that he is an international, so that will count against him. But then we get to the big 3 decisions, really.
Yeah,
you've got the 2 Uruguayans.
Yeah,
Sebastian Fernandez, Nicolas Mosquita.
Now Mosquita, I when I was doing these expansion lists on my own during the summer, I actually had him protected. He's the one who basically got taken out because of Ousted's rise in my list. I still think he did show some flashes last year, but I don't think he showed enough flashes where somebody's going to use a pick to pick him, one Orlando or New York. I don't think enough people know about him to warrant a pick from them.
I'd be surprised if he went as well.
I don't mind him coming back at all. I would like to see him back.
Yeah.
And I think he'll get more playing time in CCL or obviously with USL Pro when Bustos might not be available.
Now, Fernandes is the interesting one because he has scored some memorable goals in MLS this year. He has made an impact. Folk know about him. He's got the downside to him, which is he can't buy a penalty now to save his life because he's got
marked.
this reputation of going down so easily, and then he faked the injury in Portland.
Yeah.
So he's a name that is known. So a lot of coaches might be prepared to take a risk on him, but he is technically on loan to MLS and to the Whitecaps.
And I don't recall in an expansion draft where an expansion team picked a lone player. I could be wrong. Obviously, I don't follow them totally, all these expansion drafts, but I don't recall a lone player being bought. And also, those teams might not know how much the purchase price is for him, so it might be out of their price range as well.
True. I kind of have a gut feeling, though, that Robinson might protect him at the expense of one of the fullbacks, Beitashour or Harvey.
I would rather keep one of those two, my choice, but that's fine.
Then we come to that's true. Then we come to Omar Salgado.
Yeah, definitely not with the Whitecaps next year.
No,
from
I mean,
what we've
he's gone.
Yeah.
So it's a case. Is he going to be sold to Tigres in Mexico?
That's where the 4 hours. That's where the 4 hours basically come in.
But if he's sold, that's fine.
Yeah.
If he's traded to another MLS team, if we get allocation money or a draft pick, that's fine as well.
I don't think you'll get a roster player back for him.
But if we do, then that's the problem because we're going to have to probably protect that roster player.
It might be it might be a lesser player that they know nobody's going to pick, so they can bring him in as depth player.
So that's a toughie as well because then if they've got something lined up they can't get it done, they are going to have to protect him.
Yeah.
And then again, that's possibly going to open up one of the fullbacks being let go.
Yeah, and in that case, they could make it. There's always an option. Like we're talking about losing the player, they can make separate deals with New York and Orlando to not have nobody take them. I remember one year, I can't remember what teams were selecting, but it was maybe it was Vancouver Portland year, the expansion draft, where nobody from LA got picked. And LA had some decent talent. Yeah, maybe LA made those deals with Vancouver and Portland under the table where they sent them money and with a promise not to pick anybody from their team. So that there is possibilities for that. There's a lot of, Don Garber talking about like the people don't understand MLS rules and some of the media don't understand MLS rules. Obviously, there's a reason because you're so secretive with all this.
But when you're admitting that, then there's an issue. The first step to getting help with the problem is admitting you have a problem. So he's admitted that now.
Garber has a problem.
That's our thoughts on the expansion draft. So the trade window opens on Monday, December the 8th from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time. So Carl's going to have to be up early to get business done. It's then closed again until after the expansion draft, which is taking place on Wednesday, December the 10th. Can't remember what time it is, but they're expecting that to finish around 2 o'clock.
Now, a quick question. Maybe you heard of this. Maybe the listeners don't know. You're talking about a 4-hour window, but they're able to talk before that 4-hour window.
Oh, yeah. Because
so
what
basically
Carl said before is they have to have all their ducks in a row.
Yeah, so the 4-hour window is basically just to basically get the paperwork to MLS office in order to process the deals and everything like that.
Or if word gets out in the grapevine that a deal's going down, another team might try and come in and
jump in. Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. That's one of the big decisions ahead for Carl Robinson. It's been a really good first year for Carl in charge of the Whitecaps. A lot of success. Cascadia Cup, first ever Champions League spot for next season in the bag. Not via the Voyagers Cup, obviously, but at least they are in the Champions League next year. And, of course, making the playoffs. So we spoke to Carl Robinson this week just to get his thoughts on the season past, his first season in charge of the Whitecaps, and how he plans to spend the off-season and his plans for next year. So we're going to split this interview up into 2 parts. So the first part we're going to play just now is us having a chat to Carl just about the season gone and how he has found his first year as Whitecaps boss. Here's Carl Robinson. like a year ago, when you're in a hotel in Surrey and you're waiting to hear if you're going to get the position or not, to like a year down the line, you've just come back from South America, you've had a really successful first season. At the end of the season, you described it as interesting, your first year. Having had a couple of weeks now for it all to sink in, what's your thoughts now on your first season?
It was a good season. I think there was a lot of high moments. There was a lot of low moments as well, which I managed to keep a curb on. I didn't get too excited when we won games, and I didn't get too beat up when we lost games. And I think that's important in any young manager. You need to do that because you're going to go through peaks and valleys. And it has been a whirlwind 12 months, I have to say, from getting the position to trying to build a roster, try and bring some players in that I thought were of the right standard, letting players go, and being competitive. And with all that, it has been a very enjoyable season. But I'm open to admit I've made mistakes at times. I've made decisions wrong, but I know which ones I've made wrong, and I know which ones I'll learn from. So, that's why it's the second year is going to be even more interesting.
When you look at everything that happened in the off season, like you came into the club, Darren had just done his interview, and then the whole Camilo thing that dragged on for weeks, and then you pick Andrew Lewis in the draft, and the Cosmos. I was right. Did you ever at any point stop and think,
what am I doing?
What have I come into here?
Yeah, a few times. No, listen, it was an opportunity that I didn't want to turn down, and I wanted to make the most of it. And with being in football, being in this game for a number of years as a player coach, and an assistant coach, nothing surprises me in this game. It really doesn't. And I think what happened was I got thrown in at the deep end from day one, and I had to deal with things with the club in certain situations. And I probably learnt the hard way, but it was probably the most interesting, best way to learn, by dealing with it all at once, because it did seem to be one thing after another in the early part of the season.
You were talking about things that you learned during the season. Is there one particular thing that that really stands out to you that you've learned from, and how it will affect you going forward in the coaching?
Yes, Montreal away. We just had a break, I believe, and we come back and Montreal at home. Sorry, we played Montreal at home, and I decided to go with three quick guys, Darren, Eric and Kakuta, in that game, because they were bottom of the league and they were playing low on confidence. We'd done very, very well prior to that game, and I thought, let's get after them, and let's hit them with a lot of pace, not on the break, but just get after them. Looking back in hindsight, I should have done it the other way. I shouldn't have played my three quick guys. I should have played more inventive players, whether it was Mosqueda, whether it was Fernandez in the wider areas, because all Montreal did, Frankie Klopas was sat back on the edge of his box with Matteo Ferrari and I think Heath Pearce, and they managed to soak up and not give us any space. For me, being excited to try and put the three quick guys in the team was a bad decision by me, because I should have known that they would have come and sat back and made it very difficult for us, and it was a game that we nearly lost in the end. David came up with a big save from Jack McInerney, and I'll know now opposition and what they'll come and do, because the LAs, the Seattles, the Portlands, they come in and they have a go at us. The teams in the lower part of the table, the Chivas, the Colorados of last year, San Jose's and the Montreals, sit back. So I've got to be better in my decision making with my team in relation to that.
Was there, you were talking about high points and low points. Speaking about the low points, what was the low point for you, and how did you get this team, or was it the players that got you guys out of the funk, or can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think one of the low points was obviously we played Portland at home, and it was a very close game. The first half was probably next to nothing. There was not much in the game, high on intensity, emotion and passion, and the second half come out and we conceded a very bad goal with 10 men on the pitch, and Pedro was being off it, getting treatment, and then we chased the game for 20 minutes and made some one or two adjustments, and Mauro and Darren had very good chances to equalise, and then we got caught on the sucker with the sucker punch and conceded 2 goals and lost 3-0 at home to a bitter rivals. And I remember people saying to me at the time that fans had walked out the ground with 10 minutes to go and they were upset, and that was probably one of the most disappointing games for me, but because I don't think we played very badly. I think we played worse in games throughout the year, but the way the game happened with all the emotion and the build-up, we didn't get a luck. We didn't get any breaks in that game, and I think that was a tough one for me to take. And then a couple of weeks later we went to Portland, and again I think we battered them for 25 minutes in their backyard. Couldn't score, which was the story of our season for a number of games. Then they scored with their first opportunity, and then, you know, moving on from that, Matty Laba makes one of probably three mistakes he's made throughout these 30 plus games, and they score and it's game over. So in a short space of time we've lost 3-0 both times to Portland, but it was nice that we beat him by a point in the end.
Now, don't want to dwell too much on the past, but just to kind of put this to bed, was there anything you could have done that would have kept Camilo here? No, I tried my very hardest, but no, there was nothing at all. Not even probably £5 million could have kept Camilo here. But one star leaves, lets you bring another one in. Pedro comes in, wins Newcomer of the Year this morning. I know you've talked about this a lot already this season, but just what has he meant to this team?
I think he's meant everything. I think when I took the job in January, I wanted to try and bring in a true number 10. You know, I've been in this league a number of years, and the players that make a difference are attacking players, obviously goal scorers, and also creative players. You know, the Dwayne De Rosario of the Houston and the DC Uniteds, and then the Federico Higuains of the Columbuses, the Thierry Henrys, the Robbie Keanes, special players. And I wanted to bring a special player in, and you know, we haven't got the money to spend that a lot of the other teams have got, so we need to go and do our homework, and we need to look at what's available for the best price and who I think would fit into the team, that we could build a team around. And Pedro was the guy that I wanted. You know, he was at Malaga, he was in and out the team under Bernd Schuster. I knew he was a great guy, but his attributes that he had as a player were what I wanted. You know, a deep lying playmaker who could play higher up the field or lower, and make final passes. And I think he's shown this year. You know, credit to him for winning Newcomer of the Year. It's a fantastic achievement for him and the club. It really is. But I know he can do more. You know, he didn't score one free kick last year, which disappointed me. You know, he didn't score enough goals from open play, which disappointed me. So he's still got a lot more to give, and I hope that comes next year.
When you bring a player like that in, you hope he's going to have like a big impact. But did you think it would be as instant? Like, you bring him on as sub in the first game, he has that performance, and he just goes on that run.
I hoped, as all managers do, that they bring their designated players in and they're successful. I think he hasn't surprised me, but it's been pleasing how well he's adapted to the league, and I think he's adapted to the responsibility as well. You know, he wants to be. He's a player that you need to put your arm around his shoulder. You need to talk to him. I remember the first day that back at UBC that I pulled him in, because it was a very big day when we were in Portland last year, and we managed to secure Matty Laba and Pedro Morales near enough on the same day. Fantastic bit of business from the club, and for me, bringing in two designated players of that quality, and I think they proved their worth. After that tournament, which we won, which was nice because it's always nice to win in Portland, then bringing Pedro back into the UBC training ground and sitting him down in my office and asking him about his family, his wife, and you know, he was very nervous in the coach's office, and I had to say to him, why is he not speaking? His reply was, he's not used to being in the manager's office, because in the period of time that he was at Malaga, he was never in Bernd Schuster's office, and he never spoke to him, which I found bizarre, because a fantastic player, you know, I'm sure he's a fantastic manager as well, but I want to be a man manager of my players. And you know, it was the first meeting that I knew that how to get the best out of Pedro was to speak to him and communicate with him on a number of times during the week, good and bad. You know, when he needs to kick up the backside, he certainly got it, and when he needed an arm around his shoulder, he got it. But he felt that he was a big part of this team by me having communication with him, so that was an important day as well.
Pedro, he although, like you said, he didn't play too much with Malaga, but he was still, like, you know, with the team and everything since September of last year, and then coming straight to the team this year. That's about 15, 16 straight months, and he obviously wore down a little bit as the season went on. With his, like, that one break you've told him to take now, what do you expect of him next year? What should the fans expect of him next year?
I think exactly the same and a little bit more. You know, he was knackered at the end of the season. It's fair for me to use that word. I don't swear too much, but he was absolutely shattered. He was dead on his feet, and I think you saw that in the last game against Dallas. You know, he was trying to give his all. He was getting a little bit frustrated because he had nothing left in the tank, which is why I substituted him. And I expect more from him next year. and I met him down in Santiago because I was down there on some recruitment plans, and I had a good conversation with him, and I said I need a little bit more out of you next year, and that's the standards I'm putting, and he expects them as well. He said he's already had a break and he's back into his training already. I've said to him to just relax on it because I need him to have a big rest because we've got a lot of games next year for the Champions League and the ACC, so he'll be a big player for us next year, and he'll be the captain of the football club as well, which is a big responsibility for him, and it's one that I'm the captain is the leader of the team, but also a mark of what the manager's about, and he fits that perfectly for me.
So it's the first part of our chat with Carol. We're going to have more from him shortly. One of the things we talked about there, Pedro Morales, MLS Newcomer of the Year, and by a landslide as well. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And Carol talked there about the importance of Pedro to the team. We've discussed this a lot before, but I mean, what's your thoughts of Pedro from last year?
Oh, fantastic. He's basically saved the team. If it wasn't for him, I don't think this is a playoff team or even close. It could be one of the worst teams if it wasn't for him. He contributed to over 50% of the goals directly, whether it was an assist or a goal. I think he was invaluable. I think it was a great pickup. And, you were talking about, his, continuous play from the September to the end of the MLS season. Can you imagine what he could be when he has, a full offseason to relax and rest and recover?
I mean, that's the big question. Can he get better next year with the rest? Have we seen the best of Pedro? Is he going to be at that level constantly? How's he going to settle him? He's a little bit more used to with all the travel and stuff. Yeah. Still a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns. Do you think they should take the captaincy away from him? Can I just let him concentrate on the game? I think
so. I think I know he's the best player. The captaincy was obviously Jay Demerit's, and because of the injury and because of his retirement halfway through the season, it was just thrust upon Pedro. I think they need to probably give it to somebody else. But with such a young team, who do you really give it to? Obviously, an option is David Ousted.
I like Ousted
and he's very vocal afterwards too.
Yeah, very.
Another one. He's obviously been here the shortest amount of time, but Kendall Waston might be a nice captain. But do you really want to, with him, starting his first full year, do you really want to bother him with the captaincy as well?
Well, they've talked about how Russell Teibert is a future captain of the club, but
is he going to get playing time? That's the problem with him.
Where do they fit him as captain just now because you don't know if he's going to play.
He needs to be an everyday starter.
So, what are you expecting from Pedro next year? How do you think he's going to perform?
I will, because his first year was so in line with Diego Valeri's first year. I'm hoping that he becomes something what Diego Valeri was this year, and it continues on with that. Hopefully with a better striking force, you don't need too many goals, but hopefully he's able to provide those strikers with more opportunity to score. And maybe his assists go up and his goals maybe go down a little bit because they don't need the goals from as much. Like Diego Valeri this year was an MLS All-Star 11, I think, or something like that, whatever they call it. So maybe Pedro gets into that mold where he can approach that.
I think a lot is going to be determined as well on who Carroll brings in to play around him. Yeah. Because he needs to have help. He had it with Mauro Rosales, but he wasn't really clicking at that time. If Mauro Rosales had been here at the start of the year when Pedro was on fire, I would love to have seen what that was. So if Pedro can start the season on fire and you've got someone like Mauro and a striker to bury these chances, this could be a very, very exciting team.
Now, off the Pedro Morales, but I would just want to talk, I saw on Twitter a lot about Jermaine Jones. A lot of people question how could he finish second when he only played 620 minutes. Clearly, those people have not watched New England play because the main reason they're in the final this now, and the main reason why I think they lost one game out of their last 10 or 12 or whatever it was, I can't remember the record. But since he's joined the team, he has totally solidified that team, and I think he definitely, despite only playing just over 600 minutes, definitely deserves to be one of the top 3 or 4 of the newcomer of the game. And second place, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic for New England. And I mean, New England's done well with him. Charlie Davies as well was on fire, coming back to the form that we saw from him in years past. So, I mean, Jones was a great addition, and yeah, he deserved to be nominated for Newcomer of the Year.
Yeah.
So, as we said, a lot of what's going to happen with Pedro is going to depend on who Kyle Robinson brings in. So let's get to the second and final part now for chat with Robbo, and we're going to look at what he's going to be up to in the off-season and what fans can expect from the 2015 Whitecaps. The South American influence in the team, it's been massive this year.
Yeah.
You've been down at Uruguay because obviously things get tweeted out and stuff.
Yeah.
Was it just Uruguay and Chile, or were you able to go to some other places?
Well, there's no secrets in this game, Michael, is there? As you obviously know, and I do try and keep things quiet. I went to Uruguay and Chile. Martin was in Colombia, Brazil, Argentina. So we covered a lot of different countries. We covered a lot of different players. So number of players on the radar, number of players that we've identified that have been identified to us, and it's going to be an ongoing process with relation to that. A lot depends on what we can do financially, a lot depends on what happens in the expansion draft, the re-entry draft and things like that. But now the South American influence has been massive for us this year, and I just done an interview there and spoke about what's an important ingredient in any player I bring into this club, and it's got to be hunger. You know, they've got to have a hunger and a desire to get better. We've all got our goals in life and things that we want to achieve, but sometimes the European players coming over have had everything for them, have achieved a lot at such a young age, and then coming into Major League Soccer maybe feel they don't have enough to prove. The South Americans are not like that. You know, they got everything to prove on a fantastic stage, and that's why I think the influence has been very good here this year. And you know, it's a great market. It really is. You know, will I be playing 11 South American players? No. But, you know, if there's a talented player that's got the hunger, the desire, the mentality to get better and make our team better, then he will certainly be brought in.
Other than the hunger, is there a specific thing about maybe their game that makes MLS a good league for South Americans?
I think most South Americans are technically fantastic. You know, you've seen that with us. You know, they've got to have an ability about their play. They've got to fit into a style and a system. You know, what I've learned from going down to Montevideo and Santiago is that whatever type of player you want, whether it's big, small, athletic, tricky, quick, goal scorer, you can find anything you want there. But you've got to be willing to do the work. You know, the first weekend I was down in Montevideo, I saw 6 games over the weekend, which was incredible. 6 games, and you know, I didn't speak to my wife once during that time, and she probably thought I was out, but I was at 6 games, and there was 5 league games on at certain times, and the distance between them is not too bad. So we were hopping from one stadium to another, and I saw an under-19 game as well. So it's important you do your work when you're away. And you know, excuse me if I look a little bit tired at the moment because I'm trying to catch up.
It works out on radio, don't worry about it. A lot of people are talking about the striker position.
Yeah.
That's one of the clearest needs. Other than that, is there a position that you're looking at to maybe strengthen during the off-season?
I'm looking at all areas, if I'm totally honest, because you've always got to be looking to try and strengthen. We've got a lot of very, very good, talented players, core guys, you know, but we are missing 1 or 2 players, and you know, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to reveal what sort of areas we're looking at. You know, you mentioned the centre forward there, particular. You know, we will be trying to bring in 1, maybe 2, to see what happens, and you know, other areas we will look at as well. Because if I think I can upgrade in certain positions with certain personnel, then I'll be look to try and do deals. But I don't want to dismantle this team. The team done very well for me last year. I've got a lot of confidence in a lot of the guys here, and you know, I think they can get better. They know how I want to work now. A year under my belt, a year under their belt, and you know, we're just pushing the barrier really on what we want to do, because I don't want to be coming in next year and trying to sneak in the playoffs. You know, that's not the expectation I want for the group. I want to be trying to push, and you know, it hurts me watching semi-finals of Western and Eastern Conference games and we're not being part of it. So that'll just drive me on a little bit more.
Next Monday, you've got an initial 4-hour window to get some trades done.
Yeah.
Do you envisage the club being busy in that time, and do you have your ducks in a row all ready to go?
Yeah, no, listen, there's always ongoing talks with that. You know, I'm sure I'm sure if you ask any manager, they'll say that they've probably got 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2 trades lined up. We've spoken to a number of teams about certain players to maybe look at the possibility of doing that, whether any of that will come off. Because the difficulty a lot of teams have is they can only protect 11 players. So do they take the risk of leaving the other players exposed in the expansion and risk for losing them for nothing, or do they try and now trade their player to try and get something for him, knowing that they might lose him anyway? It's a risk that you've got to weigh up, whether it's apples or oranges. And I think there's a lot of talk going on at the moment about what's the right thing to do. There isn't a right way to do it. It's a risk either way. We'll look at what we feel is best for our club and what I think is best for me as a manager. And what I won't do is I won't move anyone on if I haven't got a replacement lined up. I think that's fair to say. So if we do make a trade or something happens, then you know that there'll probably be something else following very soon.
So as of right now, I know you won't tell us who they are, but as of right now, do you have your 11 in your head that you're going to protect?
More or less I do, yeah. It has changed a number of times from a number of phone calls I've received, and we're trying to sit down with a number of guys and talk to them about can we renegotiate certain contracts and deals, and so it might change slightly, but I've got more or less the 10, 11 guys that I want to protect, and I will protect.
I'm going to go back to the transfer thing again. Now, obviously, you can't name names of current players.
Yeah.
But is there a type of player that you've played with or from the past that would really fit with the Whitecaps, with what you're looking for?
I joke all the time, and I say Robbie Keane. Robbie Keane gets you 15 goals and 15 assists every season. And I think if we had that this year, we'd be in the top 2 or 3 in the conference. And Robbie Keane costs $4.7 million a year. So, that's probably not going to happen. The way I want to play with the 2 systems or 3 systems that we might use next year is the 4-2-3-1, the 4-4-2 diamond, and maybe the 4-3-3 in a slight adjustment as well. We're going to need options in that forward area. We've got a lot of pace in that area. We haven't got a big guy. We haven't got a target guy. That's something that we need to look at. And we need a goal scorer. So there are a number of players. Maybe Diego Costa. There you go. That's the perfect guy that I want. A stereotype of him. So if you can find one of them, let me know.
At a cheaper price, obviously.
A lot cheaper price, yes.
Darren Maddox has really had a good performance recently with Jamaica.
Yeah.
A lot of people are speculating that he could be one of those guys out to make room for another striker coming in.
Yeah.
Has his recent performances made you kind of change that in your mind? Obviously, you can't speak of whether he's going or not, but has it made you reevaluate, or you knew how he was?
That's just shown me how good a player Darren is. I know that from working with him firsthand, and as always, we have a lot of phone calls about our players. Darren is one of a number of young players that I always get regular calls on. It's not surprised me that he's done well for Jamaica. I think it's important he does do well for his country and score goals. But time will tell. I can't tell you either way, because football, 24 hours is a long time in football. I'll tell you I'm going to keep one player, and suddenly then tomorrow a bid comes in from a different club and I sell him, and then you guys think I'm lying to you. And one thing I don't do is lie. So he's one of a group of young players we've got at the club.
Apart from the South American influence, young players was the big focus this year. Now, 6 of them have just been over in the UK doing training stints. Sam got an assist with Liverpool, apparently in the reserves yesterday. What's the feedback that you've had from the clubs on the guys that you've sent over?
Well, the reason why I sent them over is because I want to get them to get a bit of experience of being out of their comfort zone. I'm not sending them over there to try and sell them. I'm not sending them over there to do anything else rather than make them realise what it's like at a certain level with a certain type of player. I sent 3 guys to Rangers. Obviously, the relationship I have with Kenny and Ali McCoist is very strong. I knew Kenny would look after him. It's wet, it's cold, as you know, Michael, in Scotland. The training facility is fantastic, and it's a proper club, who's gone through financial difficulties. So, that I wanted them to see what that was like. Fantastic tradition of football club, and they've seen it. They didn't realise how big a club it was when they first went, but after seeing the trophy room and after seeing a game and Kenny looking after them, they realise now what. And they're not even in the Premier Division in Scotland, but they will, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I sent boys there to get them out of their comfort zone a little bit, and it worked. I sent 3 guys to Derby because Derby have got one of the best Category 1 academies in England. I know Chris Evans, who's the head of recruitment there, who was my first youth team coach at Wolverhampton Wanderers, who's now working under Steve McLaren. Obviously, we've got a relationship with Mr. Malak, Jeff Malak, the owner. So it was easy for us to then send 3 talented young players to go there to see what they're like in the under-21 group, which is a fantastic group of players at Derby. From that, then, obviously Christian and Sam have both gone on to Liverpool. And Sam, I think, has let everyone know he got an assist by tweeting out a picture or something. He's a kid. He's excited. And, from Rangers to Liverpool, it's a different environment again. And you've got 40 professional players. Here in MLS, I carry a small group of players, and the majority of them are going to be involved most games. In Liverpool, there's 40 players. Suddenly, it's not as comfortable as you think it might be, because if you ask every young player what they want to do and they want to go and play for Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, they don't realise that there's a process and a procedure of how you get there and the steps you need to take. And it's certainly been an eye-opener for them. But they've done themselves a lot of good there, because I've had regular feedback from the head of recruitments there. Especially at Liverpool, they come back and said they've been very productive, and it's important because I'll sit down with the young guys in pre-season and give the feedback that I've got from the head of recruitments at both clubs, from Ali McCoist, a legend, as you know, what he thinks about each player, strengths and weaknesses, and I'll be upfront with the young players. They might not like it in some cases because there's areas they need to improve on, but they're going to get better, which they all want to, and they've all got their goals, and they're going to have to accept it. And I think that's an important part of their development as well, to realise when they're out their comfort zones, how do they react? Do they go quiet? Do they take the responsibility? Do they roll their sleeves up? Because we're developing players as well as developing people, and I think that's an important part of it as well.
There's been good things and bad things with the young people developing at this club. I'm not going to go with specific names, but how important is it for young players to realise themselves that they can't be handed playing time? They have to earn it. How, for their own future, forget the club and their future, for their own future, how important is it for them to realise that?
When I have my first team talk in January, you can come into my meeting and explain that to them as well, because I say that to them every single day. They've not got a divine right to play in my team. They will get the chance if they've earned it. Sometimes some of them think that they're better than they are, or they're ahead of where they are in progression, and where they think they are on their paths. Some listen to their agents that they're superstars already, and some of them haven't even played a first team game. So I'm fortunate enough that I've been there and I've done it. I've got the cap and I've seen what it takes to wear it. So I give them my advice, but unless it's down to them and they realise that they've got to put the work in to get the rewards out, some will progress quicker than others because some will get it quicker than others. But no one's got a divine right, and that goes across the board, whether it's a young player or senior player. If you're a senior player, if you're not putting the work in, you don't play. And that's the reality of it, and that's why I said there's no one person in my team, it's a team. Pedro Morales wins the award today, which is fantastic for him, but without the rest of the 20 odd players, Pedro doesn't win that award. And I said that to him in Santiago, that it's important he remembers that, which I think then he'll reach out to his teammates and say thank you very much, because without them he wouldn't have won that award.
You said you don't want to be a team that scrapes into the playoffs.
No.
What can fans expect from the 2015 Whitecaps?
Yeah, just same again, exactly, not definitely all the same again, but the same sort of style. I want to play in a certain way. I want to get better. I want to try and build a little bit more. I want to have a little bit more possession. I want to score a lot more goals. I analysed it on my long flight to Montevideo. What was the difference between us and Seattle? And 3 or 4 different pages in my book later on, I've come to the same theme: 25 goals. If we score 25 more goals, we're in the playoffs comfortably and we're fighting and we'll probably get a home game. So somehow I need to now, within my roster building plans, find 25 goals from somewhere, because it doesn't, is it going to cost you a fortune to do it? Well, it might cost you a little bit of money. Is it going to cost us 6 million on 2 players, which we can't do anyway? Yes, but no. So there's ways of doing it. I've got to do it a strategic way with the help of the club and the organisation. But there's got to be a plan in place, and 25 goals, that's my biggest outlook on how I can improve this team next year. Continue doing what we've done, continue building, continue playing the way we want to, individually be better, collectively be better, but find 25 goals from different areas of the field, because if we would have got 20 goals this year, then we would have had a home playoff game. So that's what you can expect, 20 goals more.
Well, let's hope so. Thanks so much for doing this,
Okay.
Carol. Have a great Christmas, and we'll talk to you in the new year.
Thanks, gents.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Carl Valentine, Vancouver 86's legend. You're listening to episode 86 of the AFTN podcast.
So listening to Carol there, I mean, you just want the 2015 season to start. It's going to be such an exciting and such an interesting season. You've got the two new teams coming in, and to me, they both look like they're going to be strong contenders in the East.
Yeah.
I mean, Orlando and New York they seem to be streets ahead of where like Montreal were and Portland and Vancouver were in being prepared for coming into Major League Soccer.
Well, designated player-wise, they definitely are. They've signed some top players. You don't know exactly how the USL Pro players are going to, elevate, and how many people they're going to keep and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see that. New York, I think we talked about another podcast. Maybe they're just going to basically be Manchester City. A lot of loanee players that are all of a sudden being paid only $45,000 a year for the MLS, and then the parent club will take care of the rest of the salary.
So, I mean, MLS it's in a good state football-wise just now. I mean, I thought the playoffs were really exciting this year. And the second legs of both conference finals were fantastic viewing. I mean, New York, New England, some folk didn't like that game. I thought it was an excellent game. It was end-to-end stuff. New York were in the lead for a while. Then you had New England coming back, and then with the away goals rule, one more goal would have tipped New York back over. Yeah. So, I mean, that was exciting.
And they did it without Wright Phillips as well, who was suspended, which is amazing.
And I mean, that was great stuff. And New England have been a class team in the East and in MLS this year, and deservedly, I think, came out of the East and got into the MLS Cup. Then in the West, LA, Seattle.
And you were down for that game, too.
Yeah, it's like I was down covering the game from an LA point of view for MLS. And when Seattle went 2-0 up, the stadium was rocking. It was bouncing. The noise was immense. The press box was shaking just from folk jumping up and down. Then it went so quiet. It was fantastic when LA scored.
Yeah, Juninho, I think, right? Scored.
Juninho, edge of the box, first goal in 43 matches.
Wow.
And what a time to come up with that.
Yeah.
Sets up, of course, that kind of Landon Donovan's final game, home MLS Cup final. In the article I wrote for MLS, I said it's like almost a perfect Hollywood ending. But if that was in a movie, you'd find it kind of far-fetched.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be a little bit, maybe it is, that's a perfect way to describe it, considering it is MLS and what they would want to do happen.
Could be a big anti-climax for him as well.
Because I think a lot of people might be looking at LA, but New England can't be like trifled with at all. They have to be considered.
I think they're going to go there with no fear.
Yeah, they have to be considered. Like, the way they're playing, the way they can attack, the way they don't have to worry about the back end, because you got Jermaine Jones, you got Gonzalez there, and the back four on Andrew Farrell. Those guys, they all attack and they all defend really well.
I'm saying they're going to go there with no fear. That is the problem, I think, when a lot of teams go down to LA.
Yeah.
They sit back, they play too tight, they play scared. And I don't think the Revolution's going to do that. I fancy them to win.
Now, they did go, you talk about no fear, but they did go, New England has gone to LA this year, and they did not have a great performance, 5-1. Obviously, it was before Jermaine Jones was there, and you were saying it was during a bad spell they were having.
Yeah, they were just having a bad run of times. It was in July, they'd gone on a bad spell, so I don't think we can take too much from that. I think it's a different New England team that we're seeing now.
Yeah, and the conditions I believe it's been raining in Southern California, and they say it's going to continue on to the weekend. Maybe it'll clear up just for the game or so.
So what's your prediction for the final? Is it going to be a record-breaking win for LA, or are the Revolution going to go there and spoil Donovan's goodbye?
It's hard for me to predict, but I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm going to say 2-1 New England.
I think I'm going to agree with you, actually. I'm going to go for a New England win. I'm going to go for 2-1, but I think that might come after extra time.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a good game. I'm really expecting a good game and really looking forward to it. So before we close up the show, as Steve mentioned, I was down in Seattle for the LA Western Conference final on Sunday. So going to play some audio that I got now. So we're going to hear a little bit from the LA side. We're going to hear from Bruce Arena, Landon Donovan, Robbie Keane, Omar Gonzalez, and the goal-scoring hero, Juninho.
Bruce, any regrets is not the right word, but what's your feeling advancing with technically with a loss?
I don't really care. We lost here 2 years ago too, didn't we?
Yeah. Okay. Just as long as
I didn't make the rules, you know.
Just as long as you advance.
Yeah, the whole objective is to advance and get to the MLS Cup final, and we've accomplished that. And now we're going to have a real battle on our hands. I think we're playing Sunday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the away goals rule being in effect, how did that approach your game plan going into?
Well, we came here to try to win the game. We didn't want to sit back, and we didn't. We came out and we were very aggressive. But obviously, you know what the rule is, and an away goal was important. Obviously, shutting Seattle out last week in the first leg was a big factor as well.
It really seemed to mean we're seeing a lot more celebrations. It really seemed to mean a lot to these guys.
Well, to get this result and be in a final at home is important. So, we're proud of that. And again, we got a long week ahead of us to try to get our team recovered and ready to play a very, very good New England team.
Did experience won this game?
Experience is a factor. We've been through this a lot this year, and I think we've gotten better in the second half of the season to protect leads and did a good job tonight.
Now, this isn't your first MLS Cup, obviously. Does it still mean as much to you? Do you still get as excited as the first couple of times that you won it?
Yes.
And overall, in your whole experience, how good is this team compared to the other teams that you've taken there?
Don't know yet until we get through this final game. Then we'll be able to, summarize what we think about this team and other teams. But they have an opportunity, to be the MLS champion. So we look forward to that challenge. And again, we know it's going to be a tough game.
We haven't won anything yet, so this is just another step along the way. The first part was the Salt Lake series, and now Seattle. Nobody's had to do it harder than we have. These are two very, very good teams. To beat the best team during the regular season in a series like this, very difficult. And now we get one game at home to win a championship. So if anybody had said at the beginning of the year that was the opportunity, we'd take it in a heartbeat, and we're going to go with everything to win it.
Given the hard-fought battles between these two teams, does it mean a little bit more to advance against the Sounders, and considering,
Well, it's special for us. This is a very good team. This is a very good organization. I think along with us and a couple others, they're the top organizations in the league, and the way they do things is first class. Their fan base is first class. They have talented players all over the field. They have top players all over the field, but we're a team full of champions and winners, and that's what separates us, and we're very proud of that fact. It's some days it's the guys you expect, and other days it's the guys you don't, and that's what champions do.
Did the thought cross your mind at halftime that, hey, I got 45 minutes left in my career if we don't get this thing going?
Yeah, it did, and I wanted to make sure that regardless of the outcome that I just put it all in, and it worked out well.
The patience and determination you talked about as champions to withstand the storm. Can you talk a little bit about that as a collective?
We have a lot of guys here who have won in their career, and that's a big advantage over a lot of other teams, including Seattle. They don't have a ton of guys that have won a lot of championships. We know how to win in any scenario, and that's what we pride ourselves on. And we're not always perfect, we know that, but at the end of the game I look up, and in the 90th minute, Robbie Keane's in our penalty area defending and clearing balls out of the box, and not a lot of other teams have players that do that and put in that kind of commitment to the cause, and that's why we are where we are.
The script is almost done. Can you talk a little bit about that? Your whole career coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of just in this right now, in this moment, and so I just want to prepare myself for one last week and do everything I can to help this team win. I really want to go out a champion.
Physically, how are you feeling?
great.
When you announced your retirement, could you have envisaged going out in a bigger game, a home MLS Cup game?
It seems perfect, yeah, but we got to win it. So that's our challenge, and we're playing a team that's, I think, the best team in the league the last probably 10 or 12 games, so it's going to be a challenge.
Thoughts on New England? It's a good team, very good team. Technically very, very good. Some clever players, so by no means it's going to be an easy game. It doesn't matter if we're playing home or not. This is the final, anything can happen. We just have to make sure we're ready for it and, treat this team with the respect that they deserve, because, they've been absolutely fantastic, this year. So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be, I'm sure, an entertaining game and something for everybody to look forward to.
The Galaxy has sort of made a habit of being in the MLS Cup Finals, a 9 times in history, 4 times in 6 years. How much of an asset is that experience, that sort of culture winning?
It's everything. Once you start winning, everyone knows the feeling. Everyone wants it more. Everyone wants another ring, another championship. When are we going to get the next one? We failed last year, so next year is our next year where we're going to put it all together. And we were upset with our shortcomings last year. We fought hard to get to where we are right now, and we have a great locker room. I mean, just amazing guys in the locker room that guys around the team can really feel that that's the reason why we're getting the wins when we need them, because we have such good chemistry. And, but it's not over yet. We're happy we're going to another MLS Cup, excited, and we know that we're facing a tough New England team who turned it around in the middle of the year. Jermaine Jones has been instrumental to their turnaround. Lee Nguyen has been amazing, MVP candidate. And so it's going to be a tough game, and we have a good week to get prepared, and it's going to be another tough game.
With next week being Landon's last game, it's going to be a bit of a circus. So how do you keep yourself focused and avoid that being a distraction?
Well, like the last question, when you become a championship team, you have world-class players, and saying that we've had David Beckham, and the last time we won it, we sent him off when he was going to retire, and so it was a circus then, and we know how to handle it. We know how to get past that. We know how to put the focus on the field. And Land is a true professional. We've all seen it throughout his career, and we want to send him out a champion. So that's an extra incentive for us. And no matter how many media comes out, which is great, we just have to get it done on the field.
But Bruce picks those kind of character guys. Is that really the key? I mean, you don't have turnover. You're picking guys who have that locker room bonding, since 2009. Is that the key? Just this team's success?
Yeah. Well, Bruce is a great coach, and he's a great manager who picks a great locker room. Ever since I came to the team, we were an old team in 2009. A lot of veteran guys who were teaching myself and the rest of the young guys how to be winners, how to be professionals. And now that now we're some of the older guys, we can now lead these young guys, and so it's just a testament to playing together for these 6 years and building that chemistry, and the coaching staff putting the teams together.
I'm very proud to talk about my team, my teammates. We are a very experienced group. We know that, and we don't get nervous in moments like that. We know we have very good players, and in moments like when you need the players, they are there.
So one of the interesting things that the LA players were saying there is they believe that experience was their key to get into the MLS Cup. And it is. They've had a number of players that's done at the top level in MLS and out with. And I do think that if the Whitecaps need to take that step to the next level, they have to look at bringing in some experienced veterans as well as the young talent.
Yeah, they need a player here and there, maybe not somebody that needs to be a starter, but somebody that in the dressing room then that can provide experience. Like Bellucci is one of the type of guys, but he hasn't really done much in the Cup finals and everything like that. So maybe bring somebody in from one of those teams that in the waiver draft, because some of those players are going to be available.
So we'll see how everything shapes up. We're going to be back later this month with a series of round tables. We're going to do our end of year review, look back on the year that's been, and we'll also cover what happens in the expansion draft. So that's all for this episode 86, of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. Steve, if you just want to let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat. My Twitter suspension is almost over, imposed by the better half. So that's almost over. I'll be able to tweet now, and we're good to go.
And I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. You can read all my stuff, AFTN on Canadian Soccer News. Get there, aftn.ca, canadiansoccernews.com. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com, so watch out for my stuff on that. So as always, thanks for listening. Let's hope we have a very interesting and exciting December from a Whitecaps point of view. A lot more for us to talk about. And until next time, take care and mon the Caps.